The Denver Broncos finished the 2023 season with an 8-9 record and missed the playoffs for the 8th straight year. It was an up-and-down season for the Broncos as this team started 1-5, then forced 16 turnovers in 5 games to improve to 6-5, then dropped a game against the Texans to fall to 6-6, before finishing the year on a 2-3 run to finish with an 8-9 record. There were some very high highs during the 2023 season, like not just beating the Kansas City Chiefs, but beating them by double digits, and like going into Buffalo on Monday night to win with a score of 24-22. But there were also some very low lows, and the lowest by far was a 50-point loss in Miami, in which they allowed over 700 yards of opposing offense and allowed 70 points in the process. And despite the Broncos finishing 29th in yards allowed defensively and 27th in points allowed per game last year, I don't think the 2023 season was all that bad for them. Obviously, when you allow 70 points in one game, that's going to significantly skew your totals for the year, but I really like the Broncos' future, meaning 2025 and beyond. They're in a difficult situation at the moment because of a few decisions they made, but this is a team that's going to be tough to beat on any given Sunday. How far will they go this year, or how many wins will they get in 2024? Well, we're going to break everything down in today's video. Now let's begin. And we are starting today's video by breaking down who the Broncos lost in free agency and who they brought in. And technically before that, what needs to be noted with the 2024 Broncos is they have the most dead cap money out of any team in the entire league. And if you are not aware, dead cap means money allocated to players that are not playing for the team this year. And the Broncos have over $67.8 million in dead cap money, which equates to about 26.5% of the team's salary cap in players that are not playing for Denver in 2024. So that has to be remembered when discussing free agents they brought in, because the money they are paying former quarterback Russell Wilson is a grand total of $53 million. Well, that would go a long way. And this is all per Spotrac.com, by the way. They're also paying Randy Gregory $7.1 million and former safety Justin Simmons $3.75 million. The biggest loss for this franchise in free agency was former center Lloyd Cushenberry, as he signed a 4-year, $50 million deal with the Titans. And replacing a center to me is similar to trying to replace a quarterback. Obviously, you're not going to be able to see the difference between Lloyd Cushenberry and Luke Wattenberg the way you'd be able to tell between a 2013 Peyton Manning and Paxton Lynch, but in the sense of when you have a good center, normally they don't leave. And there's a reason the Chiefs just made Creed Humphrey the highest paid center in football, while also opting to pay him over corner L'Jarius Sneed. Good centers don't leave. But I understand the Broncos letting Lloyd Cushenberry walk because he had a great contract year, and I do want that to be noted, is he was a liability at times in the first few years of his career before really breaking out in 2023. But replacing the player Lloyd was from 2023 to 2024 is going to be difficult. And another player that left the Broncos in free agency was longtime linebacker Josey Jewell. Jewell has been a really solid player for Denver for years, and the reality of playing on a team that hasn't had a lot of team success, and unfortunately in Jewell's case, never made the playoffs, well, it's kind of caused him to be underrated or underappreciated for the past few years. Jewell is a player who, in a lot of ways, you don't really appreciate until he's gone to see the type of impact he makes on a play-to-play basis. He's a very high IQ player, he reads his keys well, and as cliche as it may sound for a former Iowa player, he's a very hard-working player. Everyone knows how good of a safety Justin Simmons is, and unfortunately he was released by Denver this offseason, and he too will be missed. Simmons ended his Bronco tenure as a 4-time All-Pro and multiple-time Pro Bowler, and I would like to think he will be inducted into the team's Ring of Honor after his playing days are over, but having to replace both Jewell and Simmons, players on different levels of the defense, was always going to be a difficult task. And technically, yes, they also released Russell Wilson, but everyone already knew that, so I didn't want to spend too much time on Russ other than acknowledging he is no longer on the team, which, again, if you are watching this video as a fan of the Broncos, you obviously know this. Now, for players they brought in, I really liked the addition of wide receiver Josh Reynolds, with context, of course. Josh Reynolds had a little over 600 yards with the Lions last year and on just 40 receptions had 32 first downs. A lot of the time when it was hell or high water, he was the guy Jared Goff would look to. Not every time, of course, but more often than you would think. And I like the signing because of what it represents for Bo Nix in his rookie year. He can be a safety blanket and a guy who catches 40 or 50 meaningful passes throughout the 2024 regular season, maybe even more. They also brought in safety Brandon Jones from the Dolphins, who was a third-round pick back in 2020. I think Jones is a solid player and a guy who is only 26 years old, and in the best case scenario, he starts for this team for the next 3 or 4 years. That was about it for the Broncos in free agency, and that was the reason we prefaced their free agency with the dead money part, because naturally, when you have as much money allocated to players not playing for your team, you are going to be at a big disadvantage from the start. They also traded former first-round pick Jerry Jeudy to the Browns this offseason too. Now, pertaining to the 2024 Broncos defense, I think this unit is a little better than what the consensus is nationally. In a normal situation, I think rankings are what they are, and sure, some context is needed, but this team allowed 400 or more yards just once in the final 12 games of the 2023 season, and obviously when you allow 700 yards in one game, that's going to skew a lot of your statistics. They also allowed 30 points or more just once in the final 12 games, which was to the Lions, who were one of the best offenses in the league last year and are very much a team that could go to the Super Bowl this year. In an era where the quarterback is emphasized more than ever before, being able to defend the pass is critical, and some would say the Broncos have the best corner in all of football in Pat Surtain. After that, there may be some questions with 2022 fourth-rounder Damari Mathis, but what I will say positively about the 2024 Broncos defense is I love this pass rush, and I think they are a very underrated unit. They had 3 players with 45 or more pressures last year in Nick Benito, who I absolutely loved coming out of Oklahoma back in 2022, Jonathan Cooper, a player who took a big jump last year, and Zach Allen, a player who had a career high in pressures and quarterback hits in his first year with the team last year. They also have edge Baron Browning in a contract year, who has played well over the past few years, and I expect that to continue this year. Not only that, but I also expect the defense to play well, again, for the most part, this year too. There were a lot of things that went against the defense in 2023, and the offense not being able to consistently sustain drives was one of them. The Broncos offense finished 26th in average plays per drive, and they also finished 26th in average yards per drive too. There's a reason we talk about complementary football a lot on the channel, and they didn't help the defense out, and I expect that to change this year. I truly think the Broncos offensive line is underrated, and not only that, but I also think running back Javonte Williams will have a bounce back year too. We'll talk more about Javonte Williams specifically in a minute, but from this perspective alone, I think it will help balance out Denver more in 2024 than they were in 2023. Now, for the defense, I do have concerns with the secondary outside of Pat Surtain and Brandon Jones. It was nice seeing them utilize PJ Locke in different roles last year, whether it was him lining up in the box or even occasionally in the slot or of course at safety. 2024 will be a true opportunity for PJ to break out and to be a starter in the league for the next few years. But not every player will pan out and be a star. We of course wish him the best in his career, but it's the NFL. Anything can happen. Not only do I need to see more from PJ than an 8-game span in 2023, which again he looked good during that span, but the corners outside Surtain are cause for concern. If Pat goes down even for a game, then I really worry about how the corners will hold up. I think Levi Wallace is an average player on his best day, and there's a lot of games where Levi is simply not having his best day. I also have concerns with second-year player Riley Moss, and the concerns were previously mentioned with Damari Mathis. And all of this plays into why the Broncos are in a difficult situation entering the year. This isn't just Bo Nix, rookie quarterback, rebuild, and we're going to win 3 games and accept that we stink. No, it is far, far from that. This team finished 8-9 last year and had a tremendous amount of things go against them. But why I think they are in a difficult situation is their division collectively got better from 2023 to 2024. Every team made improvements, and this was already in a division that had 3 teams win 8 games, and a team in the Chargers who brought in a great head coach and significantly improved from January until now. And when you are in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, you obviously need great corners. And I worry that the Broncos will get into games this year where opposing offenses pick them apart because their corners are not as good as other NFL teams, aside from PS2 of course. I think they'll be a very tough team to beat, but their corners are a big cause for concern. I really think the 2024 Broncos offense has the chance to surprise a lot of people, and I think the belief right now around the offense is, well, Bo Nix won the starting job, he beat out Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson, great, I wish you the best, buddy, and we'll see you in 2025 because there's no way this team is going to do anything of note in 2024, and I don't think that's true at all. And I really like the pairing of Bo Nix and Sean Payton, and I also really like this offensive line. And I think it's one of the more underrated units in the entire league, which will not only help Bo Nix, but also help Javonte Williams. Javonte is in a contract year, as he was selected back in the 2021 draft, and he had a really good rookie year, and then he had a major knee injury in 2022, and I don't think Javonte Williams was the same player in 2023 that he was back in his rookie year in 2021, and I would like to think that with another year of training, with another year of recovery, that 2024 Javonte Williams and 2021 Javonte Williams can be the same player, because he averaged nearly a full yard less per carry in 23 than he did in his rookie year back in 2021. The major knee injury Javonte suffered was not just a torn ACL, and I don't want to make light of a torn ACL and suggest that's a minor injury because it's obviously not, but Javonte tore his ACL, he tore his LCL, and he tore his PLC, which is a posterolateral corner and not the PCL. So it was 3 ligament tears and not just the ACL. So it was a major injury for him to come back from in week 4 of 22 to 2023, in which he played 16 games. And again, I think behind the offensive line and with Bo Nix at quarterback and a respectable trio of receivers, I gotta be honest, I think that's only going to benefit Javonte in 2024. As mentioned, I really like the addition of Josh Reynolds. I also don't think a lot of people were paying attention to the player Courtland Sutton was last year, and I think he is a potential sleeper to be a 1,000-yard candidate this year. And inevitably, when you haven't made the playoffs in as long as Denver has, and when you are in the same division as, again, a literal dynasty, you're going to go under the radar, and you're going to be underrated, which I think a lot of players on this offense are, whether it's Courtland Sutton, whether it's Garrett Bowles, whether it's Quinn Miners, who was recently extended in a big way. I like this offense a lot, and I think the pairing of Bo Nix and Sean Payton, a player that Sean Payton actually wants to work with and to grow from day one, is going to be not underrated, but I think it's going to be kind of just not realized how much that's going to help things grow naturally and spread across the team, that, hey, we have a more positive environment rather than the let Russ cook and then let Russ and Sean not get along. And I think that inevitably would also hurt the team's development in the long run. So all in all, I like this team a lot moving into 2024, at least the offense, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. This may be a hot take. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Bo Nix leads the rookie class in passing yards and passing touchdowns this year. I think the situation he entered is really it's really underrated, because I think this offense is going to be solid, and I think Bo Nix is going to be the quarterback for this team for the next several years. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are waiting for this, but we got him. We got Brandon Perna. That's Good Sports. So let's go ahead and dive into the interview. All right, we now welcome on a very special guest for the Denver Broncos team preview. It is Brandon Perna from That's Good Sports. Brandon, how we doing?
I am doing great. My quarterback is not injured.
Unfortunately, mine. I can't say the same. But your quarterback.
That was a low blow. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's good. We'll be back next year. But the Darnold's he's gonna be fine. The Darnold's gonna be fine. Make no mistake about it. But
I think Darnold will be all right. I'm not too worried for you guys.
I mean, look, if Bo Nix can beat a team in our division by 25 points, then I think things are looking up for us too. But outside of Bo Nix, and we'll get to more of Bo in a minute. I guess which Bronco are you most looking forward to watching this year?
Oh, that's a good question. My heart, my love is for Tim Patrick. I'm excited to, and assuming that he's still gonna be with the Broncos. He's missed 2 years with injury. Finally got back on the field this preseason. Scored his first touchdown since like 2021 against Green Bay. There were rumors that he was on the roster bubble, and then people were like, maybe they're just showcasing him to try and trade him. But I hope that he's there and that he plays through the season because he's a guy that we were so excited about. And then he just had unfortunate injuries. The other, it's not even a player. I think it's just the backfield for the Broncos. It wasn't super effective last season, and I think a lot of that was because of Russ and because of the inconsistency of the threat in the passing game. Javonte Williams was coming back from a really bad knee injury, but Javonte, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Audric Estime, the rookie. So I think that's going to be a lot more effective, just based on the way Bo Nix plays. So those are kind of the areas like I'm excited about. I'm not even going to think about defense right now. Like I just want to watch an offense that can score points consistently. So it's like I'm all invested in just hopefully having an offense that doesn't let me down every week.
No, and that makes a lot of sense. I also really liked the extension of guard Quinn Myers in the offseason,
Yeah.
and I really am looking forward to watching this offense play. And I think you may have alluded to this within your response, but what is your biggest concern with the 2024 Broncos? Because I mean, reasonably speaking, this rookie quarterback, 60 plus million in dead cap money, it's not going to be a Super Bowl year. But what is your biggest concern with the team this year?
It's that everything we saw Bo Nix do in the preseason doesn't translate to the regular season. Yeah, it's all on Bo right now. And I'm working on a video right now about Bo Nix and why I'm so optimistic, even with a small sample size. And I think it's just so much about the fit with Sean Payton. And we saw recently, like Tua talking about the fit not being there with Brian Flores, to put it politely, right? Like, didn't have a coach that believed in him. I don't think Sean Payton believed in Russell Wilson, so that was not a marriage that was going to work. Bo Nix is Sean Payton's guy, and so far he's done what Sean wants his quarterback to do. So yeah, even though it was the Packers twos, even though it was the Colts twos, where Bo played well and looked like the answer for us, I'm just scared once like it's a starting caliber NFL defense, everything I got hopeful for is going to be ripped from my soul yet again. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it might be rough early because the Broncos have some tough defenses right out the gate, but yeah, that would be the biggest fear. And obviously, history repeating itself and the Broncos losing week 1 to the Seahawks on a missed field goal and then playing the Steelers week 2 and Russell Wilson beating us. I don't want either of those things to happen.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. It would be kind of funny if that happened, just hypothetically speaking, but that's the Broncos have had, some, I mean, you obviously know, some unfortunate luck at the quarterback position over the past few years. But I'm going to ask a very, very simple question, not loaded at all. Do you think Bo Nix will be the best Broncos quarterback of all time? I mean, pretty simple question.
No, not of all time. We got John Elway, who is, he's literally on my mouse pad. So yeah. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change that. I think Peyton Manning was actually a better quarterback than John Elway.
He's pretty good.
Third best. Can he get ahead of Jake Plummer? In my opinion, yes. I think Bo Nix is going to be kind of like a little boring, a little like boringly efficient, which is fine. I'm gonna take that right now. I think he can make throws people don't believe that he can make, but I think it's going to be a lot of Drew Brees style, like short, quick passes that are effective, and you just chunk away at a defense. I'm not going to get ahead of myself, though. Best ever, no chance.
No,
I'm
I mean,
looking
hey,
for
look.
third best ever, and
Right,
I'm just
right.
looking to get through one season, man.
For sure. And I'm all in for buying in on a rookie quarterback. I myself, week 1 preseason, JJ throws 2 touchdowns. Unfortunately, now that's done. But I was all in. So
Yeah.
I'm all for buying in on a rookie quarterback. But is this? I mean, is
Can we
this?
talk about JJ for just a second?
Yeah, absolutely,
Because
absolutely.
I agree.
I have the pitch in terms of like how to sell myself. I mean, look, he's
Nice.
a national champion. He's a winner.
Yeah.
Impacts the run game. 27-1 as a starter. You gotta have your stuff to defend your quarterback. You gotta have it
Sure.
ready.
Yeah, it's got to just be here always, like just ready. I thought JJ looked like the best quarterback of the rookies week 1. Like all of his throws were impressive.
I mean, well, the
Throwing
interception,
in
but
the
yeah,
face of pressure.
yeah, oh yeah,
His touchdown passes. I was like, oh God, like
he's him.
maybe he was the best quarterback to be taken in this draft. Obviously that it sucks. I gave you shit at the beginning. It sucks
Oh,
that
for sure.
he got hurt. And like he was kind of linked to the Broncos too. So that's why I had to start paying attention to McCarthy. So I want to make a truce with Vikings fans because I think there's like this weird.
Oh, I know where you're
It's
going.
like a
Yeah.
it's like a real super nerd football fan rivalry now because Sean Payton, oh, he tricked the Vikings
Right.
into jumping up to get JJ. Well, if JJ McCarthy's really good, then Sean Payton's an idiot or whatever. But let's just root for JJ and Bo Nix to be the 2 best rookie quarterbacks taken from this draft class. Let's each enjoy our own success in the AFC and NFC and kind of have a handshake agreement that we got the root for us getting the 2 best quarterbacks. And then Caleb, Jaden, and Drake with the Patriots, Commanders, and Bears. They are the idiots, not the Vikings or the Broncos.
See, I am fine with that, but there's going to be a part of the Vikings fan base that you unfortunately can't control that will like go back to the Saints, Sean Payton, and there's nothing that anybody can do about that because there's still Vikings fans that are upset about like the 2009 NFC Championship bounty and all of that with Sean Payton. So I am fine with the truce with like the Bo Nix part, but there's going to be part of the fan base that 100% with pre-Broncos Sean Payton that will like never let it go. Like it is still thinking about it 15 years later, like to this day.
Yeah, but you guys got him back in the playoffs. Though,
Oh, we
right?
did.
So,
We did
like,
the miracle, baby. The miracle.
yeah. So
that was pretty electric. Now, Saints fans call it the meaningless miracle because of what happened the following week, but that's neither here nor there. It was moment. That moment is literally the peak of my personal fandom. I can't describe what that was like.
Yeah, it's for football moments. It's probably the most excited about a conclusion to a game that I didn't have like a vested interest in. Like I didn't care who won that game, but like that ranks in like my top 10 plays like all time of just being, I don't know, emotionally charged by something I didn't know. Like I could care so much about Case Keenum and Stephon Diggs. I was like, oh my God, this is one of the greatest plays I've ever seen.
Well, I mean, Case. I'm actually going to ask a question about Case because we'll get to the Bo Nix more in a second. But
too.
Yeah, but the thing was what had actually happened during the play. I didn't mean to go this kind of like off the rails, but during the play when Stephon caught the pass and he like jumped up, I remember screaming like Stephon, get out of bounds, and then he planted his hand and I was like, what is he doing? And then it was like a second later, it was like, oh my God, like we're going to win like in regulation. It was like
It was wild.
I would imagine that has to be as close to like a Super Bowl win without actually, winning the Super Bowl as to what that feels like, I would imagine. But my next question segueing into the lot of quarterbacks the Broncos have had over the past several years. And I would imagine that you were probably excited about Russ a couple of years ago, and everybody was at the time.
Yeah.
Where does Bo rank in terms, and we're going to exclude Peyton from this for obvious reasons, but where does Bo Nix rank in terms of, even Paxton Lynch and I don't really include Brock, but, Paxton Lynch, Russ, Case, Joe Flacco, where does Bo rank in terms of being excited heading into year one?
Ooh, that's a good question, because I think if Bo had gotten here when the Broncos took Drew Lock, it would be as high as you can be outside of getting Peyton Manning. I think I and many Broncos fans are cautious because we got a little bit of hope with Drew Lock in that mix. Case Keenum, Joe Flacco, those were guys that weren't super exciting, but I was hopeful that they could be just good enough to, make the Broncos like a playoff team. So I think we're trying to not trick ourselves into being too hopeful, and that's just what year after year of underachieving kind of does when you're watching that position. I think Russ really took us to a level that he shouldn't have, but that's because Broncos fans had success with Peyton Manning, and I was certain the Broncos were going to be good when we got Peyton Manning. Like, I knew that in my soul, because Peyton Manning was that good. I was like, I don't even care if he can't throw. He'll figure it out. Like, he had those surgeries. People were like, he can't throw a football. I'm like, doesn't matter. He will get us back to the Super Bowl. I don't know if Bo Nix will get us to the Super Bowl. But I feel good about, again, the fit with Sean Payton, and I feel good about the Broncos being competitive again. And I don't even know if that all shakes out this season. I was kind of like, we're going to be 8-9 this year. Now, after watching Bo, flip it. I think 9-8 is where we're going to be at, but we're going to feel good to build around Bo this offseason and moving forward. Russ took me way too high. I was like, oh, this is, and I think it's because Peyton Manning. I think we had the success with the veteran quarterback who won a Super Bowl, and Russ has flaws, and I ignored Seahawks fans. They all told me, so many of them told me, you're not going to like what you see. There's problems in his game. There's a reason we're letting him go. And I was like, you guys are idiots. I see the Russ highlights. I see that, and Russ does. He makes incredible throws. He's got an incredible arm. His deep ball is amazing. And you see those every week if you're not watching all the games. So I got a little too high on Russ, and I'm trying to just not take myself to that level with Bo as like a defense an emotional defense mechanism.
No, I definitely get that. And there's one play you referenced, the Russ, the moon ball is what I've heard him called. There was one I want to say to Marvin Mims last year against Washington in like week 2, where it was just like, it was prime Russ, and Russ statistically didn't have a bad year last year. But
no, he had a great year statistically.
Right. And then we know everything that kind of ensued after, like, hey, we want you benched, but he doesn't want to be benched. We want to protect the contract and all that. And I guess my question off of this is, the Broncos, because of the Russ contract, have the most dead money out of all of the 32 teams. And they also have some tied up with Randy Gregory and then some with Justin Simmons. So how do you tamper expectations, knowing that in a lot of ways you're kind of set behind the 8 ball before the season starts due to that?
Yeah, I think like Bo is currently kind of erasing that negative feeling. It's like, hey, if we had to do all that so we could draft Bo Nix and just know that this season's not where the Broncos can reach their full potential, but we have a quarterback, then it's fine. Like, you see so many teams do that with the salary cap, right? They just keep kicking it down the road. And a lot of teams that do that do it because they have a quarterback. You watch the Rams kind of do it in different ways. The Saints are always in that position where they're $1 billion over the cap, and then they figure it out. I think it sucks this year that, like, we weren't in play for some marquee free agents. But what you get in a year like this is you find young talent that maybe you wouldn't have found otherwise, right? So we'll have Nix on a rookie deal for a while, and maybe a dude emerges at edge for the Broncos, some key spots where you're like, oh, we got a young guy, he's going to be cheap, we can spend on this other position. So it's that's the silver lining. And then the tricky part is if you are kind of overachieving and you maybe just missed the playoffs and you're like, damn, if we could have signed one guy, that would have been the difference, right? So I think everything's going to be positive if the Broncos are good this year. And even if they're not as good as we want them to be, we have that excuse.
Right.
Oh, we couldn't spend in free agency. We'll be good next year. And that's, as a fan, if it's not your season now, you just convince yourself next year's the year and you're okay. You trick yourself.
I mean, you could say a certain franchise has been doing that for, since the mid 90s. But the thing is entering, or I guess, my question off of this would be talking about the young talent and everything. We do a breakout player per video per team. And my breakout player, I don't know if you would consider it a cop out, but I think it's going to be wide receiver Troy Franklin. I absolutely loved when the Broncos selected him in the 4th round on day 3. I thought that was without a doubt one of the best value picks in the draft this year. And also, he, of course, played with Bo at the University of Oregon. So is there a young player that you think breaks out in a big way for the 24 Broncos?
Sure. We actually talked about Franklin yesterday, and I think you never know what to make of reports coming from camp, right? Like, you try to disseminate all this information, but he's kind of been absent in the preseason games, and apparently he's having a tough time getting up to speed with Sean Payton's offense. So I'm thinking Troy Franklin's going to be more of a late season sort of emergence or next year type player. So I'm kind of, but I loved the pick too. Everybody loved the pick. And I think eventually, with Bo, Troy, and he will have that chemistry, but Troy's got to learn a new offense, and I think it's just taking some time. He's got to develop, and possibly, why he fell to the Broncos where he did. If I'm going defense, I'm really high on Jaquan McMillan, and he was solid for Denver last year. He kind of emerged last year. I'm looking for how he develops at the corner spot opposite, Pat Surtain. He's kind of like their nickel guy. But right now, rookie Jonah Ellis has looked really good on the edge, and the edge is a position that has a lot of question marks. Like, there's lots of dudes there Broncos fans love because we've seen them have games, but none of them have been consistently dominant, like week in and week out. And so I'm kind of hoping it's Jonah Ellis, like, that we have a legit edge threat. So he's out of Utah, and maybe he's a little bit older. I forget, but that's the guy I kind of really want to have a breakout season.
No, I like Jonah this draft process a lot, and I like the pairing with him and Nick Benito. I think Nick was a guy I liked coming out of Oklahoma a couple years ago, and I thought he had a kind of underappreciated 23 season, at least obviously from the national media perspective. They're not going to talk about Nick Benito all that much.
Sure.
But I did want to go, or no, sorry, I did want to ask one question from the 23 Broncos to the 24. You obviously lived throughout all of the Jerry Jeudy experience from the Steve Smith and from the drops in his rookie year, and then even he had a couple of I still think he can be a decent NFL player. He's never been a 1,000-yard player, but I still think he can be. But do you think they're going to miss him this year? Or were you just glad to just kind of just see ya, good luck, and good luck in Cleveland?
Yeah, I think what sucks is I think Jerry Jeudy would have had a great year this year with Bo Nix. I think Jeudy just needs a guy to get him the ball consistently. And unfortunately, he's never really had that. His rookie season, he had one terrible game where he dropped a bunch of passes, and then that stigma just stuck with him. And that wasn't who he was as a receiver. He's an incredible route runner, but I got so sick of seeing off-season videos of Jerry Jeudy doing footwork and Broncos fans getting excited, and then, him not getting the ball. Well, I don't know if he's going to have a good season in Cleveland because I don't think Deshaun Watson's that good anymore. I thought he was great. I thought Watson was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and then all that other crap happened, and now he's got more soreness or something. Like, I don't know if Watson's any good. I don't know if Judy's going to get the targets he needs. So I wish him well. I think he's incredibly talented. But yeah, that was the same draft Jefferson went, right?
Jefferson,
Yeah.
CD, and and T. Higgins, and
We could add CD. We could add Jefferson. But again, like, I don't know if those guys have the same success in Denver, right? You need a quarterback to get you the ball. CD has that. Jefferson had that with Cousins. So it's hard because a receiver's success is so dependent on the quarterback being good.
No, for sure. And I do agree. I think Judy in this offense would be, I mean, to have a trio of Judy, Courtland, and a healthy Tim Patrick would be awesome. And then even Marvin Mims. I do like Marvin to be able to stretch the field vertically. But
Yeah.
I do want to go a couple rapid fire questions. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Is Pat Surtain the best corner in the league?
Yeah. Easy.
Okay.
Suck
Easy.
it, Sauce. Suck it.
Easy, he says. All right. Over under Bo Nix 23.5 passing touchdowns this year.
Ooh, I'm going to take over.
Okay. Over under Courtland Sutton 1,000.5 receiving yards.
Ooh, that's a really good question. Because Sutton had a great year last year, right? He saved Russ's ass several times. And I think he had 10 touchdowns. I forget how many he had. But I think he only had like around 800 receiving yards, maybe less than 800. So it's a stretch to go over 1,000 for Sutton. But I'm gonna go higher.
Okay. And over under Nick Benito, we'll say 9.5 sacks. Does he get to double digits?
I'm gonna say under.
Okay. And then last one, over under Broncos 7.5 wins.
I already answered that earlier.
Over.
I can't go back on it. I can't go back on it now.
All right. Well, Brandon, I do appreciate your time, and good luck with the Broncos this year. And I will personally be supporting Bo Nix. It'll be nice to see the 2024 class excel.
Yeah, I'll be rooting for JJ too. He genuinely impressed me. I know it's just preseason, but I was like, all right. All the criticism about him throwing the ball 6 times in his entire college career or whatever, like, he can throw, he can game. So I'll be rooting for you guys as well. Get healthy, JJ.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, that will wrap today's video up. Please comment what you think the Broncos record will be down below. And a big thank you to Brandon Perna for joining for the Broncos team preview. And if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. It helps tremendously with the channel. And I cannot thank you guys enough for the support. Until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.